Well, this is the Big Friendly Swim podcast, and I'm the Big Friendly host. And today, our guest is a recent 2024 Olympian who just qualified for the 10-kilometer open water race at Paris. Ivan, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on today.
Thanks for being on. So we're just gonna jump right into things. Can you talk to me about your emotions when you finished that 10K in Doha, and like that first realization hit you of like, oh my god, I just made the Olympic team.
Yeah, yeah. So, as with probably anybody who qualifies, there's a whole flurry of emotions and just so many different feelings. Uh, after the completion of my race, the 10K is like it's a pretty physically exhausting race, but it's also an emotionally exhausting race. It's about 2 hours, so you're really giving it your all physically and mentally for the entire duration of that. So when I first finished the race, I mean. Me and everybody else around me who finished kind of in that like lead pack. Um, the first thing everybody started did was you start counting the people around you, because we all kind of knew. We all knew like how many people. Right, there's 79 people at the start of this race. Only this many people are going to walk out with their actual qualification, but we are also completely aware, as I'm sure you know, just how like complicated some of the qualification criteria can get as you start moving down from like priority one and priority two, and getting down to the continental rules. So I'm done, and just like everybody else, I'm like going around like kind of counting people who are there, and then probably about 5 seconds of trying that, I just stopped, put my head down, and I just needed to breathe because I was too exhausted to even count the 10 people around me. Um, I was I was at peace, honestly, with whatever the outcome was. I was at peace with the fact that I really did believe I did everything I could during that race to have the best outcome that I possibly could have that day. Um, so I was going to accept whatever it was, whatever the outcome was, but I was going to have to ultimately wait for somebody to kind of tell me. And so I finished, I get up, I start walking to the team area, and like all like the director, the coaches, my teammates who didn't compete that day, they're all waiting in one area. Um, and they tell me, they're like, okay, we think you're this place, we think you might have done it, but we're waiting for official result. We're waiting for results to become official. And at that point, I was just in a pure state of denial. I, I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that you know, oh my God, like we could have done it. Um, and then a couple minutes later, the announcer makes gets on the mic, says that finishers one through whatever are they've been made official, and they flash them on this big massive screen. I see him number 14, and I know exactly that. I know what the implications are, given who was ahead of me, who was behind me, where I was, um, in the hierarchy of things, and it wasn't until that moment where things switched from denial to just this big emotional release. When I gave my coach just like the biggest hug, uh, that I started to finally accept the fact that, oh my God, like I'm going to the Olympics.
I can picture that like exhausted like attempt at trying to count all the people there and being 14th, like in that exhaustion, it was probably hard to like tell like, okay, so this is where I am, this is how many people there. But like probably that relief of like when you finally get to realize, oh my god, I've qualified.
Yeah, I would say the thing with counting is that as with any swim race, I feel like time goes a little quicker once you're when right after a race, and you're sitting there breathing heavy, and just those first moments after you're done. Um, so even the people that finish, for me to have been able to get an effective count anyway, I would have had to hit that finishing pad, and immediately started going for it. Immediately started evaluating who was around me and how many people were around me, um, with no like moment to breathe in between, because even the people who are finishing 30, 45 seconds after you in this race, those 30, 45 seconds just go by so quickly. And then all of a sudden, I was in the state of knowing, okay, I'm like kind of in that like group of like five or so people where like you qualifying, but you're getting towards like the last of the spots, you know. So somebody at some point, one of those people is going to be the first swimmer who didn't qualify, you know. Um, and after I processed that for a couple seconds, all of a sudden it felt like there was everybody from the race around me, you know? And so there were a couple people trying to go, what place did you get? What place did you get? Where did you think you finished? And everyone was just saying, I don't know, because we're all so equally delirious at that point. Um, so I was just, I just tried to focus on the fact that I had given it my all, probably in a way that I never have in a race before. Um, and I was just going to be accepting of the outcome, whatever news someone had to give me.
You know, especially in open water, this was actually the first time that I'd watched it at a World Championships before, and there are some phenomenally close races, even down to like 30th, 40th place. There's people coming in like within hundredths of each other. It's amazing to me like how a race that can last for 2 hours, like I think on the men's side, the 5K came down to literally two guys swimming into each other in the last 5 meters. It's amazing to me how close these races can be. So, what does it mean for you? Because obviously your team has qualified an Olympian before. What does it mean for you to continue that legacy of the five men who've qualified for the open water swim at the Olympics, two of them being from your team?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really proud to carry on the legacy of TSM Open Water. I'm not originally from Santa Monica. That's who I've been training with since about April 2022. But I'm originally from Philadelphia, and I even when I was living in Pennsylvania before moving out to California at any point in my life, I mean, I was aware of TSM's prowess in open water, and I had tremendous respect for the team and just like seeing that cap at Open Water Nationals. Because I mean, the best of the best were doing it. I mean, from there, I mean, they had obviously they've had Jordan. I remember in 2017 they also had Brendan Casey. Both of the 10K world qualifiers that year for the men were from TSM. They've had some phenomenal women come out as well, like Katie Campbell, who's gone to Worlds a couple times. Um, so there was no coincidence that I wanted to swim for TSM, especially where my open water was concerned. Um, and I was very honest with myself about how I wanted to do right by the tradition of success that they've had at this program. Um, I remember I'm always talking about it with my coach. Just like Jordan was the guy, you know, I'd really like to be the next guy, you know, the guy who takes over after him because we've been in a bit of a male like a rebuilding phase on the men's side of American open water since the Tokyo Olympics, and to be able to be the one to be able to like grab the reins per se, and re try to help re elevate the competitiveness of American open water for the men. Um, it just feels poetic in a sense to have that role kind of passed off to you from someone who was on a team who was from the same team as you. I never had the pleasure of swimming at TSM at the same time as Jordan, or I was traveling with Team USA Open Water first time in 2016, and I never had the pleasure, even though I was doing it while he was still swimming. I never had the pleasure of going on a training trip or a competition with him. But I mean, the way that that guy worked and then executed in a race was like a thing of legend. I mean, I really do believe that his 2015 10K when he won in Russia was like, I think it was like a pivotal moment in how the 10K is really swam now at the senior international level. Uh, yeah, I mean, Jordan swam for a coach named Dave Kelsheimer. My coach at TSM is actually somebody else. His name was Coach Mohammed Katabashi. Uh, and so it felt really good for me and Coach Mo to get it done after Coach Mo had been, the right hand man, like the helping hand to Jordan and Dave during like the previous era of American open water swimming. Now it's like I'm stepping forward, taking the reins, as from male open water. And then my Coach Mo, is getting that same metaphorical baton passed off to him, or grabbing that same metaphorical baton from the open water coach perspective. So I felt like it was poetic from any angle you look at it.
You know, there's that like legacy of excellence, like when somebody steps up and does something amazing and does it for so long that eventually somebody will need to step up as well and continue that legacy. And it seems like right now you're the guy who's doing that. Who, like, obviously Jordan qualified in 2016 and 2020, and then now come 2024, that legacy for your team has continued. And obviously Jordan was a pretty established pool swimmer as well. He qualified for the 1500 in Tokyo, and I think he was fifth off the top of my head.
Yeah, and he was fourth in the 1500. He was in Rio. He was in the 1500, and he was fourth in the 1500 and fifth in the 10K. So
It's
he was
a
pretty
pretty
all around
phenomenal
fantastic.
record.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's still the only, still the only American to go to the Olympics, go to the same Olympics, and do open water and pool at the same edition. I know we had Chloe Sutton go for open water in 2008, and then the pool in London 2012. But he was able to really like streamline them together, and like that's kind of what I was talking about with his 10K from 2015 changing the way the modern 10K is swam. Because since then you've just seen an influx of swimmers who say, man, I'm an elite 1500 swimmer. I should give this 10K a try, because I really do believe that for a true distance swimmer, I mean, like the physical preparation is not going to be too drastically different between events. I'm hoping to kind of, open water has been the focus the past uh, several months, but I'm really hoping to. I'm excited for some good pool racing opportunities over the next, 6, 7 months leading up to Paris, because I'm still going to be competing in the pool. Um, and I think I've got some good best times in store for me. And I don't know if I can get up to Jordan level in the 1500 between now and then. This 14:45 is a tall order, but it'd be just icing on the cake to be able to get those pool times up. Um, it just add to my continuation of that TSM distance legacy. The Jordan's a huge supporter of me and Coach Mo in the present day. Also, I mean, he's come to some workouts to just have a chat with Coach Mo and just watch us train. Watch me train. He I mean, him and I have had some phone calls and just exchanged some texts about like leading up to some major competitions. Um, because I'm a big believer in learning from the masters, and he's who I would consider to be the best male open water swimmer the U.S. has produced. Um, so whether we have a team connection or not, if I have the opportunity to maybe learn something from someone at that level, I'm absolutely going to take advantage of that. So I mean, Jordan was there believing in us, and then there congratulating us after the World Cup in Portugal in December, and same thing again in Doha, telling us good luck beforehand, and then being one of the first people to tell us, "Oh my God, like congratulations!" after. So it just makes it even sweeter to continue a legacy that the original creator of is still so invested in.
And it is a really good mentality to have, to recognize like this person was extremely successful and they're here and they're available to me. I need to like jump on that and like be willing to learn as much as I can from them. And you talked about like him being the only one to qualify for pool and open water. I expect that I would be very surprised if that list of people wasn't added to this summer in the form of Katie Grimes. Like I'd be extremely surprised if she only qualified for 10K. But it'd
I
be
think
pretty
I mean
awesome to see
Katie's
more
a
people
beast.
do that. Yeah.
Katie's a beast. I mean, she's everyone sees it at the meets. I've seen it in training and at the meets, because we've done like OTC camps at the same time, and then when we're on these trips, we're training in the midst of each other leading up to race day. I mean, yeah, the sky's the limit for somebody like Katie.
But I mean, you talked about like those next 6, 7 months, and I follow like trends in swimming all the time. Like And I've noticed that like whenever somebody qualifies for the team, especially if it's even if it's just in like the week of trials, if somebody qualifies on that first day and they've got like 3 or 4 other events, it usually has a ripple effect of like that. I don't know where I heard this term from, but like that monkey is off your back.
Hmm.
As and it's like the pressure is off and you can just have some fun, and that typically is when people produce the best performances. So I'm excited to see what you do in this next couple of months, because I think you'll probably surprise yourself too now that you've qualified and now that that pressure's off. Like you can just kind of have fun.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think that even as things stand right now, I could throw down some nice personal bests. All my best times, because I'll be doing the 400, 800, 1500, and the 4 IM at trials. All my best times are, multiple years old. And I really have not compete. I have not tapered for a lot for a meet. I have not tapered for a pool meet since December 2022. Just there's been a lot going on after that between then and now, especially on the open waterfront. Um, I'm really adopting the mindset of I'm not putting a limit on anything, because it's been so long since we've had a check-in, and we know that we're so much faster than we were back then. Um, that I'm not going to step up to the blocks and confine myself to a certain time range. Just let it. I'm just going to let it kind of happen naturally. I'm a I think it's awesome you said something about just like having fun with racing though, because for me that's since I've been swimming with TSM, that's been one of the biggest things I've had to work on, was just enjoying to race and have fun with it again. Because just like where especially as a distance swimmer, when your events are so much longer, in the 50 you don't have time to think, and you shouldn't think. And the 500, the mile, and especially something like the 10K, I mean, you got time upon time to think. Um, and what you're thinking about can really determine how much fun you're having. If you're thinking about how much you hurt, if you're thinking about how stressed you are about the outcome, you're probably not going to be having too much fun. I mean, my 10K in Doha was 6 laps, and I had fun from start to finish because I was just exhilarated to be there for not only my first Olympic qualifying race, but first World Championships. Um, and I have so much tremendous respect for the people I'm racing who are regularly getting on the podium, regularly being finishing up their top crowd. It was just like this fun little duel, like leapfrog. These are like fun little leapfrogging duels with just the swimmer next to me for the first 5 or so laps. I did not think about the word Olympic. I kept it out of my brain from the moment we dove in until probably like 10 minutes to go. Um, and that was a very intentional mental strategy that I took, because I wouldn't have had as much fun racing during the 10K if I was stressing myself out about how the hour and 48 minutes between over the next hour and 48 minutes don't matter. It's just how I feel right after they would finish up. It's just not a healthy racing mindset for me.
I think that's probably something that benefited you in the long run of had you been focused on am I going to make the Olympic team? Am I going to make the Olympic team? It probably would have just gotten in your head and without you even realizing it affected how you swim. And just keeping that out of your brain, it probably, whether intentionally or unintentionally, made you swim faster and just kept you present in the moment and like
I totally agree.
helped you qualify. So this is something I asked because in January, actually both in December and January, I interviewed Michael Brinegar and Mariah Denigan, and this is just a question for my own curiosity. Obviously, Mariah doesn't get to train open water as much for obvious
Mhm.
reasons, being in Indiana.
Yeah.
But I'm curious how often you actually get out into the water and are able to train, like in a ocean or a lake or wherever you could practice.
Yeah, I'd say the short answer is really not often. I mean, even when I was in Santa Monica, and that in back and in Santa Monica, it wasn't for lack of availability. Um, I just think that I mean, I've been doing open water for a long time. I first started racing open water when I was 10, and it's not that I was doing it part time after that. I mean, it was like I just knew it was my favorite thing to race. I had so much fun with it, and I knew it was going to be something I was going to pursue as long as I swam. Um, but I mean, being from the Philadelphia area, I mean, the opportunities to swim open water aren't very abundant there either. Uh, it's just a matter of seeking out races when you can, locally, nationally, that you can fit into your calendar so that you can go compete, have fun, and most importantly, in terms of context of the future, develop more comfort and strategic prowess in the sport. Because I feel like I mean, so many of the things that set open water apart from the pool. Um, you have the conditions, which everyone talks about. Then you have the pack, you have the dynamic, you have the physicality, you have the weather. Um, it I think that once you establish a certain level of comfort in swimming in a variety of those conditions, you're well equipped to take on almost any race. It's just so at that point the goal is the same as it is training in the pool. You just try to get faster so that you can actually be comfortable in that state, but just moving faster. you know, um, and you can't. I mean, open water training is fun. I mean, I've done my fair share of ocean workouts. I love them. They're always just so peaceful. But we would always it's in that setting you kind of have to adopt the training of, all right, we're gonna go peer to peer, or we're gonna go like this many strokes at this intensity, and then like cycle throughout intensities, because you can't use the pace clock. It's different every day. It's different every location. Whereas in the pool, you have that anchor to time, which allows you to track yourself, evaluate yourself, streamline data across longer periods of time to really understand, okay, what's my arc of improvement or lack of improvement. Um, so I'd say 99.9% in the pool, regardless of where I'm living. Um, but I mean, we've done like a couple, like I would call them recovery workouts though, like ocean swims, where it's just like you're more just kind of getting in, 6, 7K from doing a peer to peer, but nothing intense. Just feel the water, think about your stroke. Um, but you can't train like that every day if you want to be good at any swimming event.
Yeah, exactly. It it just kind of like I honestly I've thought about doing open water. Like it's
Mhm.
something that I've considered because I'm a distance swimmer as well. Like I thrive in like the mile and like basically the longer the race is, the more fun I have swimming it. But
You should
every
try it
time
then.
I get scared of like not being able to see the bottom
Yeah.
of the pool.
Yeah. I think that the solution to that would be if you not do it like I don't know, like if you're thinking about doing open water race, I would say just do it without training in the open water, because when you're doing when you hop in the open water race and you have the chaotic start, everybody's around you, like when you're in that environment, you're not gonna have time to think about, oh, I can't see the bottom, like
Actually,
that's
yeah,
gonna
that's probably
totally.
true.
No, I totally believe it, because it's all those like scary variables that set it apart from the pool are just going to go out of your brain when you're getting an elbow to your arm, or like trying to just find your way in the pack, because I mean, even take like Doha for example. I mean, the water there was 19.1 Celsius, which I think was like 64 Fahrenheit, pretty damn cold, but uh I mean, like when you dive in and you start the race, I mean, I did not think of the water temperature again the whole time, because it's just one of those uncontrollables. You can't change it, so you best to just let it just like float on out of your mind, so that you can take names in the other areas. But you should totally try it though. If longer events are your specialty, you're not going to find longer events.
My old college coach, she actually I've got like the perfect avenue to do it too because my old college coach runs like an open water club team basically. I think that's
hmm
what it is. But she trains like open water swimmers in the morning, and then comes in from like an hour and a half away to come coach the team. So she's like an extremely busy person in the water constantly all day. But sort of touching on the that diving in and being surrounded by all those people, I'm wondering if you can talk about your mentality within the race itself. We've touched on it a little bit,
hmm
and then like how you felt like knowing you'd be up against like uh actually Paul Trinieri wasn't in the 10K, but like Volbrock or like a bunch of those guys like a Rozovsky, and I'm
Mm.
gonna not try to pronounce any other names because I'm definitely gonna butcher them.
Yeah, I know exactly who you talked about. It's okay. I yeah, I mean, we already kind of touched a little bit on, like just like the desire to stay present in the race and have it just maintain that fun element. But to get a little bit more specific with that, um, I think swimming without the outcome being at the forefront of your mind is valuable in so many ways to me from a motivation perspective, from a technical perspective. It allows me to have better technique because I like to say this phrase, I'm existing within each stroke. Like I'm not letting myself exist until I take into the next stroke until I finish this one. Um, it it just really lends a lot of assistance to me for being able to focus on the controllables. I mean, that's something we and my coach are always saying: control the controllables. If it's not controllable, you might as well put it out of your head. Um, I I mean, I dove in, and once you get past that initial 5 minutes of just chaos and physicality, I mean, I was fortunate enough. I feel like I had to have a pretty good start in the 10K. So we rounded that first turn, and I was already pretty comfortable with where I was, which is a great feeling because I'd say these international races are even more physical and they can be much more draining in that respect than meets, especially like open water nationals. It's pretty, very, very light contact competition. Um, I, uh, I just wanted to, so the same, I focused on literally only existing within 1 second at a time for one stroke, the one person I'm racing next to. I'm not sitting there thinking, oh God, I'm racing 14 people ahead of me or 20 people or five, whatever it is. I'm racing the person next to me, and then when I'm done with them, I'm racing the next person, and then I'm just moving up and up and up. And then because there's just always going to be movement throughout the pack, because it's unavoidable. You have people vying for position, going around the turns, things get shuffled. Coming out of the feeding station, things get shuffled. Um, and then so I like, and as someone who's not uh whose goal isn't to lead from start to finish, that means there's always going to be someone to pass during the meat of that race, something to keep my mind occupied with. And it's like chipping away at the major goal. Like here, like overall, yeah, I'm swimming 10 kilometers. I'm doing 6 laps. I'm racing 78 people. You can get overwhelmed with that. I can definitely get a little it can be a bit daunting. Like for me, I would sometimes get before TSM when I was struggling mentally with believing in my swimming. I would get thrown off by, oh my God, I'm racing 500 yards against 7 people and I'm in my own lane. Like that could feel a little bit too much. Um, so if you pair all those metrics down, it's like, okay, I'm just racing. I'm on one lap, taking one stroke right now, racing next to one person. It's it's almost like the strategy of like making a to-do list and then putting like the smaller tasks first so you can feel like you build some momentum when you look at it and see all the things checked off. It's kind of what I'm doing throughout my race. I'm chunking it all the way down to just whatever stroke I'm taking at the time. Um, and then as the race, I mean, once you get to the end of the race, I mean, like I said, the last lap, it wasn't until the middle of the last lap where I thought of the end goal. And that's not too alarming to me, just because I mean things are coming to an end there. I mean, you're going to be hurting and in excruciating pain no matter what at that point. Um, and then I would say like the racing the person next to me gets a little bit more personal at that point, because now it's like I'm not just racing you; it's like I'm racing you for this, because now the end goal is it's creeping up in my mind. I'm starting to remind myself a little bit more what the overall um, objective is here. And I think in regards to like the people I was racing, I've I have amazing. I have so much respect for them, and I think they have done some amazing things. Like Rozovsky, Welbrock, uh, Mark Antoine, like the list goes on. Um, but I had to really I really try to adopt this mindset. Like I'm up there, like I'm in the same race as them. You know, I haven't won an Olympic medal yet. I'm not a world champion. Hopefully at one point I will be. But it's like I'm in the same race with them, and at one point in their careers, like these guys didn't have any of that, and they had to step up and take it for the first time from people who seemed untouchable, you know. So I'm not like I'm a big believer in respecting the competition. So this doesn't come from a place of disrespect, but it's I'm trying not to put those guys on too high of a pedestal. Um, to where I'm just like revering them rather than trying to challenge them, because I think that there is an innate of respect in challenging somebody who is one of the best, you know, especially if it's like a founded challenge where it's a legitimate competition. I wanted to be a competitor. I didn't go in there thinking, okay, I need to be I need to be like top 13. You know, I went in there like the goal I was visualizing was I want to show I'm like one of the best in the world. You know, I want to be able to finish with the top of the pack and have these guys look around and say, whoa, we haven't seen a US cap up here in a while at this point, you know? Um, because I mean, the outcome is so, it is constantly fluctuating in open water, you know? So, I mean, it's like, if you're going to be 13, if you, I mean, with how these races usually go, I mean, like having just a little bit better of a last 50 meters at the end, a 50-meter surge at the end. You could go from 15, you can go from 13th to 5th. Or I think that happened to my buddy Hector from Britain. I think he was like 10th going around the last turn. But it was so close that he just had that final surge and he finishes, gets a bronze medal, you know? So, and I know that, I mean, Hector, actually, we raced our first ever international open water together, 2016 World Juniors. And that was Hector. I mean, Hector took that leap in Doha and put his name up there on the World Championship podium, uh, just like all the other guys who'd been medaling before him did for the first time. Um, I mean, I raced internationally a few times the past year. We went to the World Cup in Italy in May. We went to Portugal in December, and then obviously most recently Doha. Uh, and something that me and my coach took note of was every race. I mean, there was like substantial improvement in placing and who I was placing around. Um, we were learning so much from race to race uh, because there's a lot you can learn from in one 10K. I mean, like me and my coach do a lot of race review. We watch the whole live stream because even if I'm not the one on screen, I could be learning from the person leading. You know, um, I I struggled in my first international race this year in Italy with kind of I got up to the pack really good after lap one. It was about like fourth. Um, and I see I'm up there with like Polchigieri, Acidenza, and I'm like, for a split second I was like, well, what am I doing up here? You know, like these guys are beasts. And I stepped off the gas for a split second, and it completely changed the outcome of my race. I got sucked back into the vortex of the pack. The leaders were able to pull away a little bit, and then boom, I'm finishing with the chase pack, not the lead pack. You know, because of that little moment of self doubt. So I was I mean, it's a kind of a cliche thing to say, but people talk all the time about like it's just another swim meet. You know, like what's the approach you're going to take? It's just another swim meet. That's what I did in Doha, and I also tried to take that approach with my competition. Like this is just another competitor. You know, it's just another person. It's just another person to hopefully pass when I'm racing them one on one and the 10K, and then I'll move on to the next person.
You know, I think that's a mentality that if you asked a Paul Trinieri or a Velbrock or a Rosovsky, they'd probably tell you something similar of just keeping yourself in your own race and like taking everything one stroke at a time. Because like you said, they've been there before. They've been those first time Olympians or those first time world champions or those first time medalists where and like I think it's a mentality that you have to be a successful distance swimmer, not just open water swimmer. Because when you're racing for that long, like it's almost like the 50 freestyle where they say like if you mess up one thing, it screws up the whole race. I feel like it can be kind of amplified to like the 1500 or the 10K where if you like get lost in what you're doing and you're not dialed in and you're not in the moment, that it can kind of have that ripple effect through the rest of your race where like the 50 freestyle you could end up like you said like falling back and being stuck in that pack of swimmers instead of being up in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest part of these races the point in these races where you see the most drop off for the people keeping up with the leaders, like at the same pace as the leaders, is I would say going in that transition from like lap 4 to 5, because it's at that point where you got to come to terms with, okay, it's not slowing down. It's only going to be getting harder from here. It's only going to get faster. There's less there's less delicate strategy at play. It's getting a little bit more gruff and brutal. Um, like physically and all like physically in between the swimmers and physically within your body. You're going through it a lot more. Um, and in that moment of in that during that like transitional period in the race, it's 30 seconds of getting distracted by how much you hurt and how if I back off 5%, I'll still finish. I'll still do decent. Or telling yourself, oh, I'm at World Championships. Isn't that enough? Like 30 seconds of that. Yeah, it's not. It seems like a blink in the context of a 2-hour race, but 30 seconds can be critical in whether or not you are going to be the last person in the lead pack or the first person in the chase pack, because that's a huge difference. It could be a huge difference. If you're leading that chase pack, you're doing so much if you wanted to close that gap, you're gonna have to do so much work, which is going to take away from the reserves you'd have maybe in that sprint, that finish shoot sprint. You know, um, Whereas if you were able to avoid that um, 30 seconds of distraction, you might be able to hang up with the at the end of at the back of the lead pack um, initially. And then, yeah, you're not leading your pack, but man, like you could finish 20, 30 seconds ahead of the chase pack just because you're at least working with you have things to look ahead of you that you can actually draft off of, actually make strategic moves off of rather than just playing catch up.
That's something that I watched a lot of the open water swimmers who've been around for a long time execute that perfectly. Well, like where they were back with like the chase back and they were well back in the race, and then like around like the fourth or fifth lap, they just started charging. And I think it was like Sharon von Roendahl who was like the best example of that. She was like eighth or ninth with like maybe like 200 meters to go and then just beats everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
but it's also something that like if I remember correctly, I think you executed this pretty well too, because I off the top of my head, I think you were out of the top 16 with like one more lap to go. And then you executed that pretty well too, where you started coming through and like swam a pretty good race to obviously get yourself onto that Olympic team. But it's
Yeah, thank
something
you.
that takes a lot of like mental fortitude to like be able to execute that race plan in probably such a exhausting environment, like when your arms just feel like they're about to fall off.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, oh well. I mean, yeah, you hit the nail right in the head though. I mean, I was not in the qualification range going into the last lap. I finished lap one at about 10th place, which is great. And then going around the first turn of lap two, I had a horrendous turn, and I was swimming in place essentially for a good 5 seconds and just watched like 10 people just go around me who I had passed, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to work this way up again. So I was playing a bit of a. I never fell back because of my own drop in intensity. I just some of the uncontrollables of open water.
Yeah.
Was in a poorly positioned turn. I fell back. Got to deal with it. I'm not going to get stuck on that. I guess got to move forward. There's plenty of race left. It's going to happen. I'd rather it happen then than at the fifth lap. Um, and so I was. I think after that first lap, I mean, I was always able to see the leaders ahead of me, which was one of my biggest concerns. Being able to make sure they were in my actual line of sight. Um, but I knew I wasn't in that top 10 comfortable range, because I was my goal was to get up where I got up to after lap one. I mean, I would have ideally liked to have held that position for most of the race. Just didn't happen. Had to think on my feet and adjust the race plan. Going to the last lap, I think I was in 19th place, and I mean that's a ways away from 13, especially it's like it's a. I mean, you look at a lap and you're like, oh, it's about 19 minutes. That's so much time to pass somebody. It's like it's really hard to pass somebody when you're both going 100% effort. Like it's not like you're trying to. It's not like somebody's like people don't really die that badly when you're at that point in the race if you're that high up in the pack, because everyone's so prepared, has so much experience, and has so much grit I think that if grit was like an actually scientifically measurable variable or like trait, I think it would be through the roof at these open water races. I think that's, I mean, it's remarkable what like technical shortcomings grit can make up for. Like it's really crazy. Just wanting it really badly, and having a race long enough to want it the whole time. Um, I want it for a really long time. Uh, so I mean, going to that last lap, my thought process was like, all right, I'm feeling good. I'm hurting, but it's this last lap, and it's Worlds. This is the freaking Olympics at stake. Like I got to find a way to give one more, squeeze a little bit more juice out of here. And so I found a second wind that I fortunately really capitalized on, and just built so much mental and physical momentum with uh, over the course of the whole lap. Really, I feel like I just surged with speed with every stroke, and feeling that actual second wind kick in is, I mean, I guess people call it runner's high. I mean, it was a remarkable feeling. It was a prideful feeling. I was just holy crap, man! Like we have done so much work that leading up to this, so much good, high quality work that you're able to feel like you have more to give at the end of a 10K. Like, oh my gosh, man! Um, and I knew I could see the leaders, and I could see the people in front of me when I picked my head up to sight, but I can't get an exact count, you know. Um, and I'm just kind of like gauging on like the amount of splashing, like how many people like I'm kind of seeing in this pack. I'm seeing, okay, I think I'm like I can tell I know to myself, I'm like, okay, I'm on the bubble, like I don't know if I'm on the good side, if I'm right on it, or if I'm on the bad side, but it's like I'm with enough, I'm around the people in my immediate vicinity. We're going to be the people that the first ones make it, a couple people barely get in, and then somebody's going to be the first one out. And so I told myself, Ivan, if you're not going to be getting at this race, like they better be pulling you out on a stretcher after the sixth lap. Um, and that is when the second wind kicked in. I, just kind of sat forward a little bit more in my stroke and just tempoed up the best I could. Uh, and one passing one person became another, and some of them, some passing some people was a little easier than passing others, because it's not like somebody's just going to roll over and let you get that position. Especially when if I could realize all the way back in 19th that I could get it done, I was in a position to get it done. I mean, the person who's 4 or 5 spots ahead of me also realizes, so like there's an equal amount of desire for us all to get to that finish pad. And fortunately, I mean, going up from 19 to 15, I think that's a lot of movement at the pace we were moving, at the pace we were swimming. I was really proud to see that after the fact. And I also think it was really like a textbook example of how like that race is not over till your hand touches the pad. Like it really is not. No matter how much it hurts, how far ahead you are, how far behind you are, how good you feel, how bad you're feeling, like it is not over till you hit the pad. And that's something that my Coach Mo, was talking about a lot before the race. And then like the national team director was like, every spot freaking counts. Like every freaking spot counts. And so I kind of had all those sentiments echoing in my brain. And while I'm surging on this last lap, and then it wasn't until after the very last turn where we're rounding the final buoy, going for the finish chute, where there were two folks ahead of me who I managed to pass with about 100 meters to go. And that it turns out, looking at the results after the fact, I mean, passing those two guys would have been the difference between me getting a quota spot versus getting a continental spot. And I'd rather get the quota spot, like the initial like top 13 quota spot. So, fortunately, I mean, I guess in hindsight, like I likely would have been fine either way. But it's like if you just set that back one more notch, it's like it could have been the difference between a continental spot or no spot.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like in that whole sixth lap, giving all you absolutely can with that like runner's high. It's just so weird saying runner's high for swimming. I guess swimmer's high. Um, I Like it wasn't until the end of that 19-minute lap where I finally passed the person that was the difference. That could have been the difference, you know. Um, I was really proud of the way I built the race. I think I just really would have liked to have not fallen back initially during that second lap because I just I'm happy with how I swam technically and strategically. It just it's just open water, you know.
Yeah, you um you talked about that feeling of like passing those last two guys, and it's something that in my mind it's still crazy to me having watched like I watched the both of the 10Ks, both the 5Ks and the relay, and it's crazy to me how close those races can be. Like I
Mhm.
still have that image in my brain of it was an Italian guy and an Australian guy, I think in
Oh,
the
the
last,
relay.
yeah, who
Yeah,
literally are like swimming into each other. Like they're on like the little like the rope at the edge and they're swimming into
yeah,
each other. And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm never not watching open water swimming again. That was awesome."
yeah.
So when you
That
talk about like
that
that
was
those
exciting
races, that
finish
gets me
to watch.
excited. Yeah, it was so awesome. It was like 3 a.m. and I was in my room like, "Yeah."
Yeah, yeah. I would say watching being there on the dock, watching them actually come in, uh, it was it was so exciting. I mean, as a distance swimmer, I'd always joked my whole life about a 4 by 1500 relay. And then for them to like to do it and to actually do it, but then do it in open water,
Yeah.
like it's like my dream come true, you know. I didn't do the relay in Doha, but still, I mean, it's just you get so invested in that on the sidelines.
You know, my at my college team, because I swam at a community college, um, I had two races in the mile back to back, one last year and one the year before, where both of them came down to hundredths of a second. One of
Mm.
them was a teammate of mine was like a body length behind me the entire race, and just he just was able to sprint better. He just ran me down in the last like 5 yards. But last year I was stuck stroke for stroke with a guy
Mhm.
for the whole for like 20 minutes. Literally, like the final touch was like 13/100ths of a second.
Yeah,
So you talk about those close races, and I just like it's crazy to me the level of depth and the level of like you talk about grit that people can have for that long. I mean, 20 minutes is obviously a little bit less than an hour and 40 minutes or an hour and 50 minutes. But you talked about the grit that people can have, and and obviously I'm no judge. I'm no like my stroke is worse than like a Gregorio Paltrinieri or a Christoph Rozovsky. But some of those guys have a little bit of like a lanky stroke. Like
yeah,
a stroke that isn't really technically flawless, but
yeah.
like
Me too. I
they're
mean, I have my problems with my stroke.
but they're just so strong and they have so much grit that they just power through it. Sorry, that
Yeah, I
was a
think you
really
kind of
long
feed off the.
tangent.
No, all good. I mean, I think you feed off the energy of the person you're racing next to, and it's only magnified when you're in open water, when you're like in each other's face
Yeah.
right there, uh, and and you're someone, and if you're next to each other for a really long time, you know. I would say that the really funny thing is, you want to talk about close finishes. My finish came down to a photo finish. Me and my friend from Britain, his name's Toby. Um, it came down to like we just like I mean, I got him by point 0.3, but it was close. I think if it's under half a second in open water, they go for video review just to be sure, just to make sure there wasn't any like timing chip malfunction that messed with it. Um, but my first back in the Italy World Cup in May, him and I finished within 5 seconds of each other, and then we go to the Portugal race in December, and we finish one after the other. um, and then all of a sudden in Doha, I'm on this last lap, and it was it's me and Toby next to each other because basically passing everybody who we got ahead of on that last lap next to each other, and he breathes to his left, and I breathe to my right, and I'm on his left, so we're staring at each other like the whole lap, and I will say I think that really did help me on that last lap because I was able to kind of laugh to myself a little bit in that moment. Just like, oh my God, like 3 10Ks, 6 hours of swimming and like total like across them all. Like and we're just always next to each other. Um and that definitely helped push me a little bit. I was because it kind of made a little bit of a game. I was like he got me in Portugal. Like I'm not gonna let him get me here, you know.
I think
And
races like that, like, or go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say it. So it's like when we were like staring at each other like every breath. Like it was. I think it was almost like we were like non-verbally communicating. Like I'm not giving up, man. Like and the other guy's like I'm not either. Like I'm like I can do this all day. You know.
It's races like that that I think like elevate both swimmers. I mean, like you look at like Bobby Fink and Ahmed Hefnaoui last summer, like half a second off the world record in the 1500. I don't think either one of them would have been there if it wasn't for the other person swimming next to them. So it's
I
races
totally
like
agree
that
with
like
you.
elevate both swimmers, or even like if there's multiple people, elevate everybody in the race.
I totally agree. I think that it really brings out the best in you. Some good, healthy, respectable competition. And you see it so much like, with these guys winning medals at the open water events. Like they finish and it's yeah, you've been duking it out and basically like the tooth and nail for 2 hours. But I mean, every you give each other a nice embrace or like a good like handshake, high five after the competition because it's like there's just so much respect for everybody there.
A lot of those
There's
European guys train together.
yeah, there's a lot of like intermingling over there in the European training groups. I mean, uh, you have some Germans over in Italy. You have a lot of swimmers from other countries going to France because I mean, you just like like the premier swimming nations are definitely open water swimming nations right now are definitely in Europe, which is why not to like backtrack too far, but why I was so proud to be one of the guys to be able to re-elevate US to that level.
Yeah, we needed somebody to step up and like bring like male open water swimming to put it back on the map, so to speak. And I the reason that I reached out to you and I initially wanted to do this interview was like I consider myself a huge swimming nerd.
Mm-hmm.
That's not entirely true. Everybody that I know considers me a huge swimming nerd.
Okay, I respect that. Me too.
And I hadn't heard your name before, and I'm like, this
Yeah.
Ivan guy, he seems pretty cool. Like, I want to talk to him. Like, first world championships, made the Olympic team. So I really appreciate you sitting down with me.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're not the only person who is like, who is this guy? Because I mean, I've been doing open water at a high level for a long time. And I mean, like I was really had a really successful like junior career before college, but I just had a few down years when I got to college. Like coaching changes, the pandemic, obviously, and just some internal struggle with how I was doing in the sport. So like from like 2019 to 2023, 2022, like I was nowhere to be seen on like a USA trip or going or like on the roster. So I mean, the initial goal when I went to TSM was I told Coach I want to get back on Team USA Open Water. Um, and I mean, I joined him almost a year to the day before I qualified to get on the national team last April. So a more poetic, more poetic nature of the story. Um, I so it's kind of weird because to feel like I guess I'm new in like the modern sense, but it's like I've been here before, but it feels like it was like a whole lifetime ago, just because so much has happened between then and now. Um, I mean, I remember when I first went into doping control at Water Nats last April, like somebody said, "Oh, Ivan, good to see you. Like we thought you retired." Just because, and then I got that again at OTC when I went to Colorado Springs last fall. Just because I was there and I was climbing the ranks, and then I just vanished for a bit. And it has not been an easy journey. I will say it's not been it's been a lot of ups and downs before TSM, even after TSM. Um, but I definitely feel like it's made me stronger in the sense of being that I was able to achieve. I was able to step. It made me strong in the sense that I was able to go into worlds and not be satisfied with just being there at worlds. And just it's your first world. Just focus on that. It's like no man, like you've done so much in such a short period of time. with like such a supportive coach and and network behind you. Um, like like I was saying with like my pool swimming, like the way I'm doing my pool swimming the next 6 months, like sky's the limit going into Doha. Um, and I also have kind of enjoyed being like under the radar, um, because you get familiar with like who you race and how everybody races, But since I was off the scene for a few years, I've only been I did my first international water race last May, and it was the first one in like 4.5 years. Um, and like nobody knew who I was, because it was just a totally different scene. Like I had a couple friends, like my buddy Hector, like one or two guys I knew, but this race was 88 people and 84 of them had no idea who I was. And I just have been really able to find some like comfort in the race with that because it's just I'm unpredictable. Every race that goes by, it's becoming less so, just because that's what happens as you keep getting up to compete. But um, yeah, no, you're not the only person that's kind of like, man, where'd this guy come from? you know?
I mean, I think everybody who's asking it definitely comes from a place of like, damn, this guy's pretty good. Like
I take it as a
it's
compliment.
yeah.
It's just something to laugh about. I mean, I would say though that it gives me so much more appreciation to rep the U.S. and go compete with the stars and stripes on your back. Because I was I loved that opportunity and I was so appreciative of it every time in high school, you know. Uh, and then that was a big part of who I was. I wasn't just a swimmer; I was a U.S. swimmer. Um, and then I was performing poorly for a period of time, and I lost that privilege because it's a privilege to rep Team USA. It's not like you just sign up and you're in. It's like you really takes cashing in and a lot of hard work and sacrifice from so many people just for one person to get that privilege. Um, and so to have it back, I'd like to really claw your way back to be able to enjoy that privilege again. It's almost like an out of body experience every time I throw the USA cap on at one of these open water races because so much of the motivation I derive for my swimming at these competitions is I'm racing for myself, my coach, but I'm racing for Team USA, and I'm going to make every minute of this count for my country right now. Make sure that I put my best step forward with no regrets, so that Team USA had the best representation of what we Americans are capable of.
I think when arguably this summer people ask, "Who's this Ivan guy?" Like he's pretty cool. Like, and when they're asking now, when they look into it and when they read about who you are, they learn about who you are, they're gonna see this really down to earth and level headed guy who's just trying to do the best he can every day. And I think that's a perfect example of why you've come back and been able to represent the US again is just you recognized what was needed for you and what would make you the most successful and you went after it.
Yeah, I mean, when I was swimming poorly, I was stressed about the present, how I was doing in the present. I was stressed about how it was wasting my past, like my past investments, and I was stressed about the future because my goal had always been to swim at a high level and like I always wanted to swim pro. I always wanted to like it's a privilege to rep the U.S. It's a privilege to be able to swim, do sports at this level. I mean, I don't love doing anything else more than this. I want to do it as long as I can at that level that is acceptable to me. Um, so I was just so torn between past, present, and future when my swimming wasn't going well that I wasn't giving that I couldn't like build any traction to start climbing my way back. I mean, when I joined TSM, I it was really just one day at a time, like one day at a time, learning how to love swimming again, learn one day at a time, learning how to look forward to practice again, one day at a time, improving my technique and rehoning my aerobic clock. Um, and I, I I think the reason that we were able to achieve so much in such a relatively short amount of time, just being a year and a half, um, I think it was just because we really did. I mean, every day was every day was really an integral brick in the wall that we were building. You know, he is this Coach Mo has this metaphor about like building a wall. Like how do you build a brick wall? Just brick by brick. You know, it's like there's no fancy way to do it. It's brick by brick. And that's what the training approach was, and the psychological approach was to getting back on Team USA open water. Because I joined him a year before I could have had the opportunity to do that, but I do not think I would have been able to achieve it. Um, if for that entire year, I was just thinking about April 21st, 2023, April 21st, 2023. Like it just would not have been good for the brain or the soul.
Yeah, it would have just kept you sort of like tucked away from like what you could achieve. My last question for you, and just to wrap things up here, is I want to jump to the college level because you touched briefly on your first couple of years at college, and obviously it was, I believe it was this past January that you started at West Virginia, and I was wondering if you could talk about on an athletic level, but also on a academic level too, like because obviously we're all people outside of swimming, we're all pursuing goals that aren't aquatics related. So I just wonder if you could touch on where you're at and what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean I swam. I used my first 3 years of eligibility at my first university. And then my fourth year, I stayed and graduated. I did not swim on the team. Um, so that meant that I was, going in. I finished my bachelor's degree with 2 remaining years of eligibility because I had my senior year and then my COVID year, my extra COVID year. And so if I only had 1 year of eligibility remaining, I probably wouldn't have you continued. I probably wouldn't have used it because I mean the degree that I'm trying to get it's a 2 year degree. I mean, you can only swim for 1 year of that. You want to be on, only get scholarship assistance for 1 year of that. Um, and I'm not really a believer in one and dones on college teams. I think that I mean, just the culture and the team environment is so important in a college program that any addition you make to the space has to be a meaningful one. And a one and done is not. It's not really enough time to leave like an indelible program mark on a program. Um, if anything, it's just like quick fixes or quick distractions from like the inevitable. Um, I so I mean like it all kind of with what I was looking for in the school I was going to get my master's at. It was just like criteria was just so different than what it was the first time around when I was looking at colleges. I mean, like I'm a different person. I'm older. I have different priorities. My life is in a different spot. And I've had some unique experiences, just like everybody does. It's over the course of 4 years. Um, and so my biggest thing was, you know, where am I just going to be the happiest to swim? Like I didn't have very fun of a college swimming experience the first time around. I got 2 years eligibility, use that to get a great degree, but also join a college program that I can help improve, help continue on the path of of like a growing trajectory, um, and just continue to swim at a high level because I'm going to be enjoying it. Because I mean, happy swimmers are fast swimmers. I think that's an adage swimmers say all the time, coaches say all the time. Um, and a huge reason why I don't believe I was swimming well at my first university was because I just wasn't happy. Um, so I mean, there were a variety of reasons of why West Virginia became the choice. I mean, it was people, academic programs, coaches, stability, everything. Um, but I ultimately, yeah, decided to go to West Virginia University, get a master's in coaching and sport education, because I want to coach swimming when I'm done competing. I've known that since I was probably about 12 years old. It's a lot of the best mentors and the role models I had in my life have been swim coaches. So I really want to be able to pay that forward to the next generation of swimmers and inspire a similar love for the sport in the next generation of swimmers. Uh, it's been an amazing experience since I've been here. I mean, it was very bittersweet to leave TSM, because I was loving every minute of being there and training there. Like we had no sign, there was no sign of slowing down. It's just I'm a man of my word. About a little over a year ago, I signed my NLI with WVU. and they were kind enough to let me take a gap semester. I was originally supposed to go in August, but they let me defer by one semester um, for the sake of preparing for the Portugal World Cup with Coach Mo. Um, but I still wanted to get the degree. I was still excited to join the team. I still my growing success in open water was did not have was not invalidating the reasons I chose WVU anyway in any way. Um, but so I've been here about I guess technically I've been here for 6 weeks, but it's really only been four because I was in Doha 2 weeks. But every day that I've been here has only reaffirmed all the reasons I chose West Virginia. Um, they I, where I'm concerned, I mean, I was coming into the program on a very like specific with a very specific goal in mind that takes place outside of the college season. So I'll be going to Big 12 champs in about a week and a half. Um, but like Worlds is not on the college calendar. And the coaching staff is still fully was still fully behind me and supportive about training for the 10K in Doha during the college season. Because one of the open water was something I considered when I was picking my college destination, and some college programs just do not want to support it because it's not a college event, not an NCAA event. West
It'd be
Virginia
fun if it was.
was it would there's some growing events like there's the CSCAA Open Water Champs, which is like the Open Water National College Champs, but it's a growing meet, and there's nothing at the NCAA level yet. I would love for that to happen. Oh my God, that'd be amazing. It would probably be even more of a scholarship nightmare than regular college swimming, but it would. I would love that. I might just come back to college if that was the case. I so I mean, one of the reasons I chose West Virginia was because of my appreciation for the stability of the staff over a number of years, and my genuine belief that they were going to support me in every facet of my swimming career, not just going to conference, trying to win rings, like see me as a whole swimmer and understand my long-term goals in swimming that lie outside the NCAA space. Um, it would have been on paper, it would have been ideal to, stay at TSM and train there like right up until Doha. But for the sake of eligibility reasons, I needed to join the team at the start of the semester. Uh, but they were completely communicative with my coach back in TSM. In addition to my communication with him, just being really good about hey, like any advice on what you think Ivan would need right now, uh, how should we approach how should we structure the training week, all of this stuff, just general training input was welcomed by my coach at TSM because they understood that I was going to world championships as a swimmer on the West Virginia team, but it was the accomplishments and training that I had done under TSM that bore most of the responsibility for that work, Um, and I was that was such a humbling moment when they said that to me, that they said that they realized that, because I just think it's not that common for college coaching staff to put their ego aside in such a massive way, because I was trying to, I mean, we were trying to do something bigger than college swimming, in my opinion. And they were still totally in our corner the whole way. And I've been back since, and now I'm more on a regular, the regular team structure, just because, I mean, Worlds is over, now we got conference to gear up, and it's continuing to be fun. It's like I said, it's been a short time. I've only been here a short time, but uh, it feels really good to be enjoying the college swimming space.
You talked about that, setting your ego aside, and I think that's a mark of a good coach to recognize
Mm-hmm.
where an athlete has been and the work they've done, and to communicate with that coach and be like, what can I do to set up a swimmer that you put so much effort in? What can I do to continue that level of success?
Mm-hmm.
And Ivan, I'm so grateful that you sat down to talk to me today. It seems like you're in a really good place and you're enjoying the process as much as possible. And I'm excited that somebody like you is representing us this summer and is representing Team USA this summer because I feel like the sky's the limit in terms of, from what you've told me, like the sky's the limit in terms of what you can accomplish.
Yeah, thank you, man. I will say, I mean, like I'm a ritualistic goal setter. Uh, so I have a goal notebook. I'm visualizing my goals all the time. I have a couple note cards, like pasted around my apartment, at like places I'll see a lot with like the one main important goal. And going into Worlds, it said like Paris 2024. Like those are the note cards around my house for like a year and a half. And the first thing I did when I got back was take those note cards down and put new ones up with a new goal. I'm gonna keep that goal to myself just because
Yeah.
that's just that's how I operate. But I I'm so honored. I'm so honored to have been to earn this opportunity to represent Team USA at literally the highest level. Um, but I'm not satisfied with just having qualified. I want to go there and be a competitor. I'm not gonna settle. Settle for just getting my name on the roster.
Yeah. Exactly. Like it's once you get that goal, like, and the new one becomes the next goal, and it just is like a ripple effect of the more successful you are, the more you can keep resetting those goals and accomplishing great things.
Yeah, it just you just made me think of that because I set those goals for myself, but I also set them for USA Swimming because I like being the best swimming nation. I want to stay the best swimming nation.
Yeah. I like being in the best swimming nation too.
Yeah.
All right, Ivan. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me. This was wonderful. I'm so excited to see where you go from here.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate the opportunity and keep pumping out good content, man. I like it. You talk to some of my friends, so it's fun to see their faces, but it's fun to see a lover of the sport in action, just sparking up some good conversation.
It's been really fun. Like it's been a huge ripple effect of like the more people I've talked to, the more people have wanted to talk to me, the more like
Hmm.
success I've had. Like I posted a reel talking about Hunter Armstrong and his crazy 200 freestyle that he had, and I think it's past like 12,000 people have seen it now, and like
Yeah.
50 new followers have come from it. So it's just a crazy ripple effect of all of these people like yourself who've taken the time out of your day to just sit down and talk to me. It lets me continue doing something that I absolutely love doing. Like I love talking about swimming.
Oh yeah, me too. That's why I was excited when you messaged me because I'm somebody I can talk about swimming for hours, like
Yeah.
nonstop. So much so that like when I'm at home, it's an off limits topic at the dinner table because my brother hates it so much. He's
my
so
my
tired of all the
family just
swimming
looks
talk.
at me like I'm speaking another language.
Yeah, my mom's a swim coach, so it would always be me and my mom, and then my brother just third wheel in there, just no input. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see who you have on next, man. And I have a feeling you'll be following our results
I will
between now
likely
and
be at
at
a
Paris.
I'll likely be at Olympic trials this summer.
Oh,
The
sweet.
plan the
Well,
plans are being set
yeah,
in place, so I might see you there.
that'd be great, man. I'd love to get to meet you in person.
Yeah, it'll
I'll
be
be there like
awesome.
the whole time, I think, because I think my
Yeah.
first event is the first day, and then my last event's the last day or
Yeah, the
something.
400 IM's like the first night, and then the 1500's the
Yeah,
last day with all the 50s.
yeah.
When you get the chance, on Instagram, send me an address that I can send you stickers because
Oh,
I have stickers
sweet.
that I send out to people.
That's great. Yeah. No, I actually just got a new water bottle, so
Here, I'll
like
give you
there's
a.
already like the best place to put it.
Oh wait, let me. Oh
Oh,
my god,
nice.
it's blurry.
No, I can
It's
see it
like
right
the
there
guy
though.
holding a sign that's like,
Yeah.
listen to my podcast.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, I'm
All right,
sending it to you
man.
right now.
Sounds good. I'll let you go. I'm headed to my own swim practice actually pretty soon here.
Nice. Well, have fun, man. And it was a pleasure talking.
Yeah, pleasure talking to you too. Thanks for
Yeah,
sitting down with me. You have a good
of
one.
course. Have a good one.